Hello, you're watching A News Today from Baku. I'm Leila Masimwa. Here are the top stories. G20 leaders adopt a Rio de Janeiro declaration urging decisive action on climate change and addressing conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East. Bill to rewrite indigenous rights brings tens of thousands of protesters to New Zealand's parliament. US is pledging to provide even more assistance to Ukraine after President Biden authorized the use of long-range missiles against targets inside Russia. Talks on nuclear power as an alternative energy source has been discussed at the COP29 summit in Baku. The International Atomic Energy Agency says it is ready to lend its support.
At COP29 in Baku, the event, Radiation and Climate Change, New Challenges, brought together experts to discuss the critical role of nuclear energy and radiation safety in combating climate change. As nations strive for decarbonization, innovative solutions such as nuclear technology and small modular reactors are gaining attention for their potential to provide clean energy and sustainable development. Experts highlighted how these advancements could benefit various sectors, from agriculture to energy, ensuring both environmental and public safety.
To the climate change, we're ensuring that there will be a net zero based on the program of the IEA. With this small modular reactors, you can able to ensure the electricity in the country, and it could be mobile and it could be safely zero hazard as it should be.
The International Atomic Energy Agency delegate in Baku says they can help countries set up if they've not had nuclear power before.
First, let me say the nuclear energy has great attributes to support the country's decarbonization process. We are glad to see that Azerbaijan also expressed interest in using nuclear. For agency, we actually help our member states to prepare themselves in terms of infrastructure when they are expanding nuclear or embarking on the first nuclear. Azerbaijan is like a country who might be this newcomer country. So we are ready to support your country to prepare yourself to embark on nuclear program.
As the COP29 reaches its climax by Friday, meeting the International Atomic Energy Agency's milestone approach will be key for Azerbaijan as it advances its nuclear program in a safe, secure and sustainable manner.
The second week of COP29 in Baku shifts focus on human development with emphasis on youth, health and education. In the face of climate change, here's more on today's discussions and outcomes.
The second week of COP29 in Baku began with a focus on human development, children and youth, health and education, addressing critical issues for humanity when confronted by climate change. Today's youth are not only inheriting these challenges, but also preparing to lead the fight. The inaugural Human Development Day featured a high-level meeting on the Baku Initiative on Human Development for Climate Resilience, emphasizing education's role in building climate resilience. The meeting introduced a joint statement and the Baku Guiding Principles, highlighting the importance of climate-friendly curricula, teacher training on environmental matters, and equipping youth with green skills. Ms. Maya Seppo, Assistant Director General, International Labour Organization, stressed the need to study and gain expertise in green skills to prepare a climate-ready future workforce.
As ILO, we put a strong emphasis on skills, so making sure that we have a skilled workforce which is going to be critical to enable the transition, and also making sure that young people get the green skills that are in the demand in the labour market today and in the future.
Education is the obvious tool to empower young people. Think about science. Science gives you the tools to understand the issues around the climate, to engage with this, to become the future engineer who's developing the technologies to adapt to a changing climate and mitigate the climate.
Have to share the climate We have created an educated workforce that corporates, the private sector, need to implement what we are trying to do, so to tackle climate change. So it's a real revolution, a revolution starting from literacy, climate literacy for the new climate revolution.
The day's discussions reinforce the significance of Human Development Day at COP29, showing how education and human development are increasingly essential in achieving global climate goals and securing a sustainable future.
A News is bringing you real-time coverage of the COP29 summit. Joining us live with the latest insights is Orkan Imashov. Hello, Orkan. So what's the latest on the ground?
Hello, Leila. Yes, another hectic day here. Quite a lot is happening and quite a lot to digest and deliver. In some ways, today is very similar to day 2 and 3 when the World Leaders Climate Action Dialogue was underway. And we understand the reason because environment ministers are back here and we will be hearing some national statements from those countries which did not deliver their national statements on day 2 and 3. So high-level segment is underway. But today's focus is, of course, food, agriculture and water day. Earlier we heard about the announcement of the launch of COP29 Baku Harmony Climate Initiative for farmers. So some of the climate resilient, climate friendly agricultural practices will be discussed today. And also, of course, earlier, actually, before the COP29 declaration on reducing methane from organic waste was announced. And also, of course, some attention will be ascribed to tourism today, because as we understand, the tourism on its own as a sector is responsible for 8% of the world's carbon emissions. The focus will be on that too. And of course, some techniques, some practices to enable farmers to be ready for climate-related matters will also be discussed during the course of today. So today we have two key components. One component is food, agriculture and water, and second component is high-level segment. And later today, we are going to hear more announcements, of course, and there's a One Health approach for nurturing human development. This announcement will be made later, and this will be hosted by COP29 presidency and the Azerbaijani Food Safety Agency. That will be arranged along the lines of quadripartite secretariat under the rubric of One Health. I very much doubt that we will hear about any particular announcement in connection with NCQG decision, but environment ministers are here. And we heard on the grapevine that delay is a possibility. Perhaps it could be the last decision, the final decision, the most important decision could be delayed till Sunday. We remember that the greatest delay was observed back in Madrid in 2019, although nothing officially confirmed as yet. I want to make it absolutely clear. So atmosphere is very hectic here. There is a degree of similarity when you compare today to day 2 and day 3, and we expect to hear more. And of course, we will continue to inform our audience in connection with the latest developments taking place here. Thank you, Leila.
Thank you, Orkan, and to the world news. At the G20 summit in Rio, leaders signed a declaration tackling key global issues such as trade, climate change and security. The document also calls for peace and urged reforms to enhance the United Nations' role in global governance.
The G20 leaders' declaration emphasised commitments to addressing trade tensions, climate change and international security. It also highlights the impact of the ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East on global stability. The leaders' statement urgently called for increased aid and protection for civilians alongside a comprehensive ceasefire in both Gaza and Lebanon. A key part of the declaration urged reforms to the UN Security Council to strengthen the General Assembly's role in preserving international peace, aiming to enhance global governance. The signing of the declaration underscores the G20's united effort to address urgent global challenges and reinforce multilateral cooperation.
After a 9-day march, thousands of Maorians and supporters rallied outside New Zealand's parliament. They're against changes in a historic bill that they fear could weaken indigenous rights protected under the Treaty of Waitangi.
Thousands of Maori and their supporters rallied at New Zealand's Parliament. They fear changes to the 184-year-old Treaty of Waitangi could threaten their cultural and social rights. In 1840, the treaty was signed between the British Crown and over 500 Maori chiefs. Today, it continues to influence legislation.
I came here to support the Maori people, and because my family are also Maori, so I want to do this for them because their land matters to them, and it's not just the people but their future generations. So I want to be here to support them. Yeah. But I know that this bill is going to be ruin everything, and probably still separate us into two instead of into one. And I believe that we're fighting for the right reasons.
Maori make up 20% of New Zealand's population of 5.3 million and face significant social and economic disparities. Thousands say they'll continue to demonstrate against what they perceive as a direct threat to the historic agreement governing the relationship between Maori and the Crown.
In France, farmers have staged a protest against a trade agreement between the European Union and Latin American countries known as the EU-Mercosur deal. The protesters says large imports from Latin American countries may push out European producers and reduce standards within the EU.
Leaving their farms to voice their concerns on the highway. These farmers fear a possible double standard in an agreement allowing for imports that are not subject to strict EU regulations to compete against European produce.
We are here today to denounce the EU-Mercosur Treaty. Emmanuel Macron left for Argentina and Brazil to ensure France's voice is heard with regard to this treaty. We do not want to import agriculture from these countries, since it is not produced according to the same standards as we have in France. We are capable of producing poultry, we are capable of producing beef. We do not need to import all these things from these countries, especially when they are not in fact produced with the same level of quality as here.
Police escorted the convoy of tractors, which was parked along the highway, as farmers camped in to spend the night. The agreement between the EU and Latin America includes Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia, Paraguay, and Uruguay, and it could allow up to 99,000 tons of beef and up to 1 million tons of maize, among others, to be imported into Europe. Last week, the EU Commission says it wants to protect European farmers in the deal.
We are precisely in a phase where we are addressing a number of concerns that have been raised by the European farmers community in particular, in order to ensure that these concerns are dealt with appropriately in the final agreement with Mercosur.
Brazil has been pushing to have the EU-Mercosur agreement signed by the end of the month, while it holds the presidency of the G20. Advocates for the deal, including the EU's biggest economy, Germany, say it will open up more markets for their own exports.
The US is set to announce additional security aid for Ukraine. It follows America's approval for Kyiv to use missiles inside Russia. At the United Nations Security Council, the US ambassador to the UN condemned Russia's deployment of North Korean troops. But Russia says that the West's involvement is only escalating the conflict.
Ukraine is reaching a significant milestone of 1,000 days of war, and Kyiv says international support remains crucial to its survival. The United States is preparing new measures to strengthen Ukraine's defence and reaffirm its commitment to the embattled nation. US Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, says the support is not just a political issue, but a global priority.
The United States will continue to surge security assistance to Ukraine, including artillery, air defense, armored vehicles, and other needed capabilities and munitions. And we will announce additional security assistance for Ukraine in the days to come.
She also condemned Russia's recent decision to deploy North Korean troops alongside Russian forces.
In its desperation, the Kremlin has turned to the DPRK, first for arms and now for manpower. At least 10,000 soldiers, sent first to eastern Russia and now to the far western Kursk oblasts bordering Ukraine, have begun engaging in combat operations with Russian forces. It is a move without modern precedent.
British Foreign Secretary David Lammy warned that Russian President Vladimir Putin's success in Ukraine could signal the collapse of international law and border security worldwide.
If he succeeds in Ukraine, he will tip the world beyond the tipping point that we are on, a point where the principles of the UN Charter, self-determination, territorial integrity, and international law are lost, and there's no meaning. So this is a grim milestone, and I'm here at the United Nations to say to member states, unless Putin fails, the wars of conquest will be back.
Meanwhile, Russia's UN representative dismissed the West's role in prolonging the conflict, accusing the UK of pushing Ukraine toward continued confrontation with Russia and deepening regional instability.
In other words, 50 days after the start of the special military operation, when the losses in the Ukrainian armed forces were not yet that significant, the hostilities had every chance of ending. This would have been the case if it hadn't been for the interference of the British Prime Minister, who convinced Zelensky that he should continue fighting, that he would have Western support and weaponry, and he would thus be able to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia.
With US President Joe Biden authorizing the use of its missiles in Russia and President-elect Donald Trump's return to the White House in January, the future of US support for Ukraine remains uncertain. All eyes are now on how global assistance will impact the next phase of the war.
Plastic waste is creating a major problem for the Ruzizi hydroelectric dam between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The rubbish is 14 meters thick and causes frequent power cuts.
Situated in the southern end of Lake Kivu, the Ruzizi Dam's output has been heavily impacted as it's become a collection point for thousands of pieces of plastic bottles, cans, and other plastic items. Lack of electricity has had a negative impact on local businesses. It's a situation that authorities have attributed to poor waste management and not a lack of power generation capacity.
Here we have 4 machines, and together these 4 machines produce a total of 29.8 megawatts. These waste materials affect all 4 machines at once.
Clogged at a depth of 14 meters, divers must regularly remove plastic waste from the bottom of the dam to prevent turbine blockage and clean the surface daily. This highlights the environmental and economic challenges in the region. As a result of the persistent pollution and waste crisis plaguing the region, authorities are desperate to address the root cause of the problem by introducing sustainable waste management systems.
Requiring each household in Bukavu to join a waste collection organization will ultimately allow us to assess the extent of this issue. Once each household collects its waste, these collection organizations can pick up the waste from households and transport it to disposable sites.
Authorities have urged residents to take responsibility and not leave rubbish on the streets, as it eventually ends up in the Ruzizi Dam.
Turkey and Iraq are set to be connected through railways, roads and ports by 2030. A development road project has been backed by Turkey's trade minister. Industrial and logistics centers inside Iraq will also be built as part of the proposals.
During a meeting with Iraqi officials in Baghdad, Turkish Trade Minister Ömer Bolat emphasized the importance of strengthening bilateral trade ties and accelerating work on the Development Road project. Bolat also highlighted its significance for commercial transportation. According to him, the Great Development Road is not just a highway or rail transit project, but a transformative initiative for Iraq's development, modernization, and vision for the future. Bolat noted the project is slated for completion by 2030. He expressed the broader implications of the project, including the creation of major urban centers, logistics hubs, storage facilities, and industrial zones within Iraq. The Development Road project is projected to serve as a critical link in regional trade and development, enhancing connectivity between Iraq and Turkey, while fostering economic growth and infrastructure modernization.
Well, that's all we have for this hour. Please do stay with us. You can also get latest news and headlines around the clock on our website, that is anews.tv. And thank you for watching.